The dawn light seeped into room 412, painting Lucy Harper's rainbow blanket with a soft glow. Her eyes, open for fleeting moments, had closed again in restful sleep, but her steady breaths were a victory Michael Carter clung to. The mysterious Caleb, the barefoot boy who'd sparked this miracle, was gone, leaving only his note and a lingering sense of wonder. Michael, his heart raw but alight with purpose, knew this wasn't just a story of survival, it was a call to change. He left the hospital for the first time in days, driven by a vision. In Seattle's gritty South Side, he sold his old pickup and cashed out his savings, pouring every dollar into a community center called Starlight Voices. It was a haven for kids like Lucy, those facing trauma, loss, or illness, where music and art could mend what medicine couldn't. Lucy, still weak but smiling, painted the center's first mural, a boy in a torn jacket, his hand outstretched, captioned, "He carried light, not wings." Their story didn't stay quiet. Michael and Lucy launched a YouTube channel, Caleb's Light, uploading raw footage of their journey, Lucy's sketches, Michael's trembling songs, their shared tears. Within weeks, it exploded, millions watching, sharing, crying. Messages poured in from across the globe, a nurse in Ohio who sang to her patients, a teen in Lagos who found hope in Lucy's smile. "This is bigger than us," Michael told Lucy, his voice thick with awe. The narrator's voice rises, urgent, "This miracle isn't just theirs, it's yours to spread. Share this video with someone who needs a spark. Comment your story of hope, we're reading every one. Hit like, subscribe, and let's light up the world together." The screen pulses with comments, shares, a montage of faces touched by Lucy's fight, urging viewers to join the movement. As Seattle's skyline glittered under a rare clear sky, Michael and Lucy stood on the community center's roof, staring at the stars she'd always loved. Lucy, now stronger, clutched a sketch of Caleb, her fingers tracing his smile. "He's still out there, Dad," she whispered, helping someone else. Michael nodded, his heart full. Caleb, boy, angel, or miracle, hadn't just saved Lucy, he'd rekindled a truth buried in Michael's grief: love speaks louder than fear. The narrator's voice softens, resonant. Lucy's awakening wasn't just a medical anomaly, it was a reminder that a song, a hand, a moment can pull us back from the dark. Caleb showed us that miracles don't need names or proof, only faith. Life lesson: don't wait for a crisis to show love. Call your family, sing to your kids, write that letter you've delayed. Your voice could be someone's lifeline. The screen fades to Lucy's mural, the words, "You're not lost, you're just not finished yet," glowing in bold blue. The narrator's final call: live like Caleb, carry light, wherever you go. The lullaby hums softly, stars twinkle, and the video ends with a quiet, powerful truth: love is the miracle that never fades. The buzz of Chicago O'Hare's Gate C-12 was a living thing, a cacophony of rolling suitcases, gate announcements, and the low hum of impatience from passengers waiting for Flight 214 to Los Angeles. The air was thick with the scent of overpriced coffee and the faint whiff of jet fuel drifting in from the tarmac, where the SkyWest Airlines plane gleamed under the late afternoon sun. At the check-in counter, the Harper family stood like a calm island in a storm, their first-class boarding passes already scanned but now under scrutiny by Claire, the gate agent with the tight blonde bun and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Malik Harper, his navy blazer crisp despite the airport's chaos, kept his gaze steady on Claire, his salt and pepper beard framing a face that hid the frustration simmering beneath his teacher's composure. Simone, her locks elegantly pinned, stood beside him, her cream dress a quiet defiance, her hand resting lightly on their son Jaden's shoulder as he clutched his Nintendo Switch, his sneakers still tapping, oblivious to the tension. Claire's radio crackled with her call for a supervisor, her voice low but sharp: possible issue with first-class passengers, and the line behind the Harpers grew restless, murmurs turning to grumbles as the boarding process stalled. Claire's fingers hovered over the keyboard, her eyes flicking between the Harpers' passes and their faces, her lips pursed as if solving a puzzle that didn't add up. She'd seen first-class passengers before, business execs in tailored suits, celebrities hiding behind sunglasses, but to her, the Harpers didn't fit the mold. Malik's quiet confidence, Simone's poise, Jaden's carefree grin, they grated against her assumptions, and she leaned into them, her voice clipped as she spoke. "I'm sorry, Mr. Harper, but we need to verify your tickets," she said, her smile thinning. "There's been some confusion with the seating assignments." She tapped the screen, her tone implying more than a clerical error, her glance darting to the security guard by the jetway, a burly man named Tom who shifted his weight, watching. Malik's jaw tightened, but his voice stayed even, honed from years of teaching high schoolers to think before they react. "No confusion on our end," he said, sliding his ID across the counter. "We booked these seats months ago." "Scanned fine, didn't they?" Simone stepped closer, her voice warm but firm, her hand still on Jaden's shoulder. "We're not holding up the line, ma'am. If there's an issue, let's resolve it quickly." Jaden, sensing the shift, looked up from his game, his brow furrowing. "Mom, what's wrong?" he whispered, and Simone squeezed his shoulder, her smile reassuring but her eyes locked on Claire, reading the game. Claire ignored them, her radio crackling again as the supervisor, a harried man in his 40s named Greg, approached, his SkyWest tie askew. "What's the problem, Claire?" he asked, glancing at the growing line, his voice edged with irritation. Claire leaned in, her voice low but not low enough, her words carrying to the Harpers and the passengers behind. "These passengers claim they're first class, but I'm not sure, something's off. I checked the manifest, and their names don't seem right for the upgrade." The word "claim" hit like a jab, and Malik's hand tightened on his briefcase, the leather creaking, the documents inside a silent weapon he wasn't ready to draw yet. Simone's eyes narrowed, her voice cutting through Claire's whisper. "Our names don't seem right," she said, her tone sharp but controlled, drawing eyes from the line. "Care to explain that?" The passengers behind shifted, some muttering, others craning to see, a woman in a business suit pulling out her phone, not to film, but to check the time, her sigh audible. Greg raised a hand, his voice placating. "Let's keep this calm, folks. I'm sure it's a mix-up." But his glance at Claire, quick and knowing, said otherwise, and Malik caught it, his patience thinning, his teacher's calm tested by a script he'd read too many times. "Mix-up?" Malik said, his voice low, steady, but with an edge that made Greg pause. "Our tickets are valid. You've got our IDs, our passes scanned clean. So what's the real issue here?" He leaned forward, his briefcase resting on the counter, its weight a quiet promise. Claire's face flushed, her fingers stalling, but she doubled down, her voice rising. "Sir, we have protocols for first-class verification. It's standard procedure, nothing personal." The lie hung heavy, and Simone's laugh, soft but biting, cut through it. "Nothing personal," she said, her locks swaying as she tilted her head. "You sure about that, Claire?" The line behind them grew louder, a man in a polo shirt muttering, "Just let him board, come on," while a young couple exchanged glances, their discomfort clear. Tom, the security guard, stepped closer, his hand on his radio, his presence a silent threat, but Malik didn't flinch, his eyes locked on Greg. "Call it what you want," Malik said, "but we're not moving until you explain why we're being singled out." Jaden, now fully alert, tucked his switch away, his voice small but clear. "Dad, are we in trouble?" Malik's hand found his son's shoulder, his voice firm. "No, son. We're just fine." Greg, sweating now, glanced at Claire, then the line, his voice strained. "Look, we're overbooked, and first class is tight. I need to bump someone, and since your tickets were flagged, we'll need you to take economy seats." The word "flagged" was a spark, and Simone's voice rose, her poise cracking. "Flagged for what? Being black in first class?" The accusation landed, and the crowd hushed, the business suit woman looking up, her phone forgotten, the young couple whispering. Claire's face reddened, her voice shrill. That's not what this is. You're making this about race. But her denial rang hollow, and Malik's hand tightened on his briefcase, his eyes burning with a quiet fury. Greg raised both hands, his voice desperate. Everyone, calm down. We'll resolve this, but you need to step aside so we can board the rest. He gestured to Tom, who moved closer, his radio crackling, and the tension spiked, passengers shifting, the air electric. But Malik didn't budge, his voice low, a steel thread running through it. We're not stepping anywhere, he said. You want us out, you'll need to explain to your boss why you're kicking a family out of seats they paid for. He tapped his briefcase, the leather a soft thud, the documents inside a secret Claire and Greg couldn't imagine. Simone pulled Jaden closer, her voice steady but fierce. We're not here to make a scene, but we're not your scapegoats either. Fix this, or we're talking to someone higher up. The business suit woman stepped forward, her voice clear. I'm a frequent flyer with SkyWest, she said, her phone now out, not filming but ready. This looks like discrimination to me. You sure you want to escalate this? The young couple nodded, the man adding, yeah, this ain't right. The line was no longer just restless, it was watching, waiting, a small but growing chorus of support that made Greg's face pale. Claire, cornered, snapped, her voice breaking. I'm just doing my job. But Greg cut her off, his voice low, urgent. Claire, enough. Step back. He turned to Malik, his tone conciliatory but shaky. Sir, let's take this to the office, sort it out quietly. But Malik shook his head, his voice unyielding. No office. We sort it here, now, or we don't board at all. He opened his briefcase, his fingers brushing the documents inside, a move so subtle Claire missed it, but Simone's eyes caught it, a spark of recognition passing between them. The radio crackled again, and Tom spoke, his voice hesitant. Supervisor's calling for backup, he said, glancing at Greg, who nodded, his face grim. The jetway door loomed, the plane waiting, but the Harpers stood firm, their dignity a wall Claire couldn't break. The crowd's murmurs grew, the business suit woman now typing on her phone, the young couple whispering to others, and Malik's hand stayed on his briefcase, ready to pull the trigger that would change everything at Gate C-12. We're back at the powder keg that is Gate C-12 at Chicago O'Hare, where the Harper family's routine boarding for a first-class flight to Los Angeles has turned into a high-stakes standoff. The terminal's alive with the clatter of roller bags, the hiss of espresso machines, and the tinny drone of boarding calls, but all eyes are on the check-in counter, where Malik Harper, Simone, and their son Jaden are locked in a battle of wills with gate agent Claire and supervisor Greg. The air's thick with tension, the kind that makes your skin prickle, as Claire's thinly veiled bias, calling the Harpers first-class tickets flagged, has escalated into a full-blown scene. Malik's navy blazer is still sharp, but his hands tight on his briefcase, the documents inside a quiet bomb waiting to detonate. Simone's cream dress glows under the fluorescent lights, her locks pinned high, her grip on Jaden's shoulder steady as he tucks away his Nintendo Switch, his eyes wide, catching the weight of the moment. Greg sweating through his SkyWest tie, Claire's blonde bun is unraveling, and the security guard, Tom, looms nearby, his radio crackling with backup calls. The line of passengers behind is a restless sea, some grumbling, others whispering support, like the business suit woman and the young couple who've called out the unfairness. Malik's last words, "We sort it here, now, or we don't board at all," hang like a dare, and the terminal feels like it's holding its breath, waiting for the next move. Greg's face is a roadmap of stress, his eyes darting between Malik, Claire, and the growing crowd, his voice straining to keep control. "Mr. Harper, I'm trying to resolve this," he says, his hands raised, palms out, like he's calming a wild animal. "But we can't hold up the flight. Step to the side, and we'll figure out the seating." He glances at Tom, a subtle nod, and the guard steps closer, his bulk a silent threat, his radio spitting static. Claire, emboldened by Greg's lead, chimes in, her voice sharp, her composure cracking. "You're causing a disturbance," she snaps, pointing at Malik, her finger trembling. "If you don't comply, we'll have to escort you out." The word disturbance lands like a slap, and Simone's eyes flash, her voice cutting through the terminal's hum. "We're the disturbance," she says, her tone low, lethal. "We paid for our seats, showed our IDs, and you're treating us like criminals. Tell me, Claire, what's the protocol for that?" The crowd stirs, the business suit woman, her name tag reads, Ms. Patel, stepping forward, her phone now in hand, not filming but typing furiously, her voice clear. "I'm emailing SkyWest Corporate right now," she says, her eyes on Greg. "This is unacceptable. I've flown first class with this airline for years, and I've never seen this nonsense." The young couple, a guy in a hoodie and his girlfriend with a backpack, nod, the guy adding, "Yeah, you're making a scene, not them." A few others murmur agreement, their impatience shifting to indignation, the line no longer just a cue but a witness. Jaden, his game forgotten, looks up at his mom, his voice small but fierce. "Why is she so mad at us, Mom?" Simone kneels, her hand cupping his face, her voice soft but unyielding. "Some folks see us and assume the worst, baby. But we're not going anywhere." Malik's eyes don't leave Greg, his briefcase a steady weight in his hand, his voice a steel blade wrapped in calm. "You heard my wife," he says, stepping closer to the counter, his presence filling the space. "We're not moving until you explain why our valid tickets are a problem. And don't give me that overbooked excuse, your manifest's right there." He nods at Claire's screen, his teacher's instinct for calling out half-truths kicking in. Greg stammers, his tie now a noose, his glance flicking to Claire, who's frozen, her hands hovering over the keyboard, her face red. It's just procedure," she sputters, but her voice cracks, her confidence crumbling under the crowd's scrutiny. Tom's radio crackles louder, a voice announcing backup's arrival, and two more guards appear from the jetway, their boots heavy on the floor. The terminal's noise dims, passengers pausing, gate agents at nearby counters turning to watch. The young couple steps closer, the girlfriend pulling out a notebook, jotting down names, Claire, Greg, Tom, like she's building a case. Ms. Patel's phone pings, a reply from SkyWest Corporate, her voice rising. "They're asking for details," she says, glaring at Greg. "You want me to tell them you're targeting a family for no reason?" The crowd's murmurs grow, a man in a Cubs hat muttering, "This is bull," his wife nodding, their toddler tugging at her hand. Greg's losing ground, his voice desperate now, his hands gesturing wildly. "Nobody's targeting anyone," he says, but his glance at Tom betrays him, a silent plea for control. The guards close in, their hands on their radios, but Malik doesn't flinch, his briefcase now open on the counter, his fingers brushing a folder inside, the documents still hidden but their power palpable. "You're making a mistake," he says, his voice low, almost pitying. "You don't know who we are, but you're about to find out." Simone's lips curve, a faint smile of recognition, her eyes locked on Malik, knowing what's coming. Jaden, catching their vibe, stands taller, his fear fading, his voice clear. "Dad's got this, right?" Malik nods, his hand ruffling Jaden's hair, his voice warm. "Always, son." Claire, cornered, snaps, her voice shrill, her bun unraveling. "You're holding up the flight. Just take the economy seats or leave." The outburst draws gasps, the Cubs hat man shaking his head, Ms. Patel typing faster, the young couple now openly glaring. Greg grabs Claire's arm, his voice a hiss. "Stop talking, Claire." But it's too late, the terminal's a stage, and Claire's the villain, her bias laid bare. The backup guards hesitate, one, a woman named Officer Lee, glancing at Malik, her eyes narrowing, sensing something bigger. Tom, less certain, steps back, his radio silent, his gut telling him this isn't his fight. Malik's hand dips into the briefcase, pulling out the folder, its contents still hidden, but the move is deliberate, a signal that shifts the air. "You want to escalate this?" he says, his voice steady, addressing Greg, Claire, the guards, the crowd. Fine. But you'll need to call your CEO, because this isn't just about seats anymore. He opens the folder, his fingers pausing on a document, the SkyWest logo faintly visible, and Greg's eyes widen, his face paling. Claire, oblivious, scoffs, her voice breaking. CEO. You're delusional. But Simone's laugh, soft and cutting, silences her, her voice a quiet storm. Keep talking, Claire. You're digging a hole you can't climb out of. The terminal's hum fades, the crowd leaning in, Ms. Patel's phone now poised, the young couple's notebook open, the Cubs hat man whispering to his wife. Officer Lee steps forward, her voice calm but curious. Sir, what's in the folder? She asks, her eyes on Malik, sensing a shift. Malik meets her gaze, his voice steady, a spark in his eyes. Proof, he says, his fingers tapping the document. Proof that you're messing with the wrong family. The words land like a thunderclap, and Greg's knees buckle, his voice a whisper. Proof of what? But Malik doesn't answer, his hands steady, the folder a weapon Claire and Greg can't see, but the crowd feels its weight, the terminal holding its breath for the explosion to come. Let's dive back into the electric standoff at Gate C-12 of Chicago O'Hare, where the Harper family's fight to board their first-class flight to Los Angeles has turned the terminal into a stage for justice. The air's buzzing with the clink of coffee cups, the shuffle of impatient travelers, and the crackle of security radios, but all eyes are glued to the check-in counter. Malik Harper stands tall, his navy blazer sharp, his salt and pepper beard framing a face that's calm but ready to strike, his hand resting on an open folder from his briefcase, the SkyWest Airlines logo peeking out like a loaded gun. Simone, her locks pinned high, her cream dress glowing under the fluorescence, holds Jaden close, her eyes blazing with quiet defiance as their 12-year-old son clutches his Nintendo Switch, his sneakers still, his trust in his parents unshaken. Gate Agent Claire, her blonde bun fraying, is red-faced and rattled, her bias exposed after calling the Harpers' tickets flagged. Supervisor Greg, his SkyWest tie a noose, is sweating bullets, caught between Claire's meltdown and the growing crowd's outrage. Security guards, Tom, Officer Lee, and two backups, hover, their radios silent now, sensing a shift. The line of passengers, led by Ms. Patel in her business suit, the young couple with their notebook, and the Cubs hat man, is no longer just waiting, they're witnessing, their murmurs a chorus of support. Malik's last word, proof, hangs like a thunderbolt, and the terminal's holding its breath for what's about to drop. Malik's fingers tap the folder, his voice low, deliberate, slicing through the terminal's hum. You want to know what this is, Greg? He says, his eyes locked on the supervisor, who's frozen, his hands twitching. It's the kind of proof that makes careers end. He pulls out a document, holding it just shy of Greg's reach, the SkyWest logo clear now, alongside the words, shareholder agreement. Claire scoffs, her voice shrill, her unraveling bun bouncing. What's that supposed to be? Some fake paper. But her bravado's brittle, and Greg's face drains of color, his eyes darting to the document, his voice a croak. Mr. Harper, let's not do this here. We can. Here's exactly where we do it, Simone cuts in, her tone a velvet blade, her hand still on Jaden's shoulder. You singled us out, questioned our right to be here, and now you're scared of the truth. Go on, Malik. Show M. Jaden looks up, his eyes wide, a spark of pride breaking through his worry. You got M, Dad, he whispers, and Malik's lips twitch, a faint smile for his son before his gaze hardens, turning back to Greg. The crowd leans in, Ms. Patel pausing her email to SkyWest Corporate, her phone poised, the young couple's notebook open, the Cubs hat man nudging his wife, their toddler quiet now. Officer Lee, the female guard, steps closer, her eyes on the document, her voice calm but curious. What's that prove, sir? She asks, her radio silent, her stance neutral but engaged. Malik holds the paper higher, his voice clear, carrying across the gate. This proves my family owns a controlling stake in SkyWest Airlines, he says, the words landing like a shockwave. I'm Malik Harper, chairman of Harper Holdings, and we acquired 51% of this airline last year. These seats? We didn't just pay for them, we own the plane. The terminal goes dead silent, the hum of jet engines and coffee machines fading to nothing. Claire's mouth drops, her hands flying to her face, her bun collapsing into a mess. Greg staggers, grabbing the counter, his tie swinging, his voice a choked whisper. That can't be. But Malik flips the document, revealing signatures, dates, and a notarized seal, the proof undeniable. Simone's smile is slow, triumphant, her voice soft but cutting. Oh, it's real, Greg. Check your records. You'll find our names at the top. The crowd erupts, gasps and murmurs swelling, Ms. Patel's eyes widening, her phone now typing again, the young couple scribbling furiously, the Cubs hat man letting out a low whistle. No way, his wife says, her toddler clapping, oblivious but caught in the energy. Officer Lee's lips curve, a faint nod of respect, while Tom and the backup guard step back, their radios forgotten, their faces a mix of shock and unease. Claire shakes her head, her voice a squeak. You're lying. You can't own, but Greg cuts her off, his voice a hiss. Claire, shut up. He snatches the document, his hands trembling as he scans it, his face paling further, the truth sinking in like a stone. Malik closes his briefcase, the snap echoing, his voice steady, a teacher addressing a wayward class. You thought you could push us out because we don't look like first class, he says, his eyes sweeping from Claire to Greg to the crowd. You assumed we didn't belong, but this airline runs because of us. And you just tried to kick the owners off their own plane. Simone steps forward, her locks catching the light, her voice fierce. You owe us an apology, Claire. And not just us, every passenger you've ever treated like this. Jaden, emboldened, adds, yeah, say sorry, his voice small but strong, drawing a chuckle from the crowd, the tension breaking for a moment. Greg's voice cracks, his hands raised, pleading. Mr. Harper, Mrs. Harper, I had no idea. This was a mistake, a terrible mistake. He turns to Claire, his face twisting. You caused this, Claire. Step back, now. But Claire's frozen, her eyes darting, her voice a desperate whine. I was following protocol. How was I supposed to know? The crowd boos, Ms. Patel calling out, you knew exactly what you were doing. The young couple nods, the girlfriend adding, you profiled them, plain and simple. The Cubs hat man shakes his head, muttering, unbelievable. Officer Lee steps up, her voice firm, addressing Greg. You need to fix this, sir. Now. Greg nods, his hands shaking, turning to the Harpers, his voice low, groveling. Please, accept my apologies. You're cleared to board, first class, no issues. We'll make this right. But Malik's not done, his voice unyielding. An apology's not enough, he says, gesturing to the crowd. You'll issue a public statement, retrain your staff, and Claire here. She's done. You don't treat passengers like this and keep your job. Claire gasps, her hands clutching the counter, but Greg nods, his face grim, knowing he's out of moves. Simone's eyes meet Malik's, a silent agreement, and she adds, we'll be meeting with your CEO Monday. This isn't just about us, it's about every family who's faced this. The crowd cheers, Ms. Patel clapping, her email sent, the young couple high-fiving, the Cubs hat man nodding. Jaden grins, his switch forgotten, his voice proud. That's my parents. The terminal's alive again, passengers clapping, some shouting support, the gate agents at nearby counters watching, stunned. Officer Lee turns to her colleagues, her voice low. Let's clear the area. They're boarding. Tom and the backups nod, moving to guide the crowd, their threat dissolved. Malik closes the folder, slipping it back into his briefcase, his voice calm but final. We'll board now, he says, taking Simone's hand, Jaden between them, their dignity a beacon. Greg scrambles to print new passes, his hands shaking, Claire slumping behind the counter, her career in ruins. The crowd parts, passengers cheering as the Harpers walk toward the jetway, their heads high, the SkyWest plane waiting, theirs in ways Claire never imagined. The terminal's still buzzing, but the storm's passed, and the Harpers have won, not just seats, but respect, and Gate C-12 will never forget it. Alright, let's wrap up this wild ride at Chicago O'Hare's Gate C-12, where the Harper family, Malik, Simone, and Jaden, have just turned a racist gate agent's attempt to boot them from their first-class seats into a masterclass in justice. The terminal's still humming, but the storm's passed, leaving a trail of stunned passengers, a humiliated Claire, and a sweating Greg scrambling to save face. The Harpers are striding down the jetway to their SkyWest Airlines plane, Malik's navy blazer sharp, Simone's cream dress glowing, Jaden clutching his Nintendo Switch with a grin, their dignity a beacon after Malik dropped the bombshell. They own the airline. The crowd's cheers echo, Ms. Patel's email to corporate is sent, the young couple's notebook is full, and Officer Lee's nod of respect lingers. Claire's career is toast, Greg's groveling, and the Cubs hat man still shaking his head in awe. But this isn't just about one gate, it's about a fight that's gonna ripple far beyond the tarmac. By the time the Harpers land in Los Angeles, their story's already spreading, not through viral videos or hashtags, but through the old-school power of word and paper. Ms. Patel, a frequent flyer with clout, posts her account on a SkyWest loyalty forum, her detailed email to corporate sparking a firestorm among passengers and industry insiders. The forum thread explodes, with travelers sharing their own stories of bias on flights, turning the Harpers' stand into a rallying cry. SkyWest CEO, alerted by Greg's frantic call, meets with Malik and Simone Monday, his office a sleek Chicago high-rise overlooking Lake Michigan. The Harpers lay out their terms, mandatory bias training, a public apology, and Claire's termination, plus a review of hiring practices. The CEO, sweating as much as Greg did, agrees, knowing Harper Holdings' 51% stake gives them the whip hand. Back in Chicago, the fallout's swift. Claire's fired, her gate agent badge a memory, her LinkedIn profile scrubbed as industry whispers blacklist her. Greg's demoted, reassigned to a regional airport, his SkyWest tie a relic of his failure. SkyWest issues a press release, crafted with Malik's input, admitting unacceptable conduct and outlining reforms, printed in every major aviation trade journal. The Harpers' story becomes a case study at industry conferences, their names synonymous with accountability. Jaden, back at school, tells his friends about the flight, his Switch now a prop in a story that makes him the coolest kid in class. "My dad owns planes," he brags, and his teacher, overhearing, invites Malik to speak at Career Day, turning their fight into a lesson for kids. The ripple effect grows. Ms. Patel's forum post inspires a passenger advocacy group, Fair Skies, launching with Simone as a guest speaker, her poise electrifying a crowd of travelers demanding change. The young couple from the gate, inspired by the Harpers, start a blog about equitable travel, their notebook now a manifesto shared at local libraries. The Cubs hat man, a small business owner, tells his employees about O'Hare, sparking a company-wide diversity workshop. Even Officer Lee, moved by Malik's calm, pushes her precinct to rethink airport protocols, her report citing Gate C-12 as a turning point. The Harpers' reunion in LA becomes a celebration, cousins toasting their stand, Jaden sketching the plane in his notebook, a new hero's tale. This wasn't just a flight, it was a lesson in standing tall, in using truth to topple bias. The Harpers didn't need cameras or hashtags, they had proof, smarts, and each other, and that was enough to shake an airline. So, what about you? Have you ever faced unfair treatment or seen someone fight back with facts? Share your story in the comments, I'm reading every one. If the Harpers stand fired you up, smash that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell. Let's keep pushing for a world where every seat's yours, and no one can push you out.